Stimulus and international relations, or stimulus and world politics. There's a current focus with safety, security, truth, facts, data, information, right, wrong, reason, justice, law. And everybody's watching to make sure nobody's being misdirected. Everybody's going like the B-2 bomber. Smooth and on target. And staying in flight. In other words, it's almost like government has been given to a spaceship almost kind of object away from Earth. And everybody's floating around waiting to solve the problem for peace, so they can land and enjoy the freedom and enjoy the land. There's two leaders, hormones involved. There's two leaders. There's anger and aggression, emotion. There's two leaders and some cocaine to try to stop the world from ending, from some nuclear annihilation. All stimulus. With emotion kind of floating in between as an intelligence and a smart and a brilliance. Compared to the more traditional, thoughtful leader who's proud and distinguished. Eliminating those from the conversation to begin with starts the trajectory of psychological cognition on a broader system. More discussion and conversation about solving problems, like not overcooking the onions and the mushrooms and letting them rest for a second while I finish what I'm saying and I don't forget, for the sake of speed and how fast the world has gotten. Scientists always want to say there's only this much time left on the clock. And the person next door always wants to explain to the police, in my situation, they know what I'm saying in my own home. These aren't examples of calm and beneficial progress. There's distraction, there's worry, there's concern, and there's risk. When there's stimulus, there's questions asked about other people, how they're feeling, looking a little overweight, how they're feeling, not looking as wide-eyed. And more talk and words shared about problems getting solved by sharing and not fighting over disagreement. There's no disagreement face to face. There's two people. And there's only a person there for what they need to accomplish now, and only another person with the same intentions. And if not, and when they decide they are the stimulus, then the system fails and the processes disintegrate. People don't make decisions properly when they're so overloaded with their consciousness, reaching the limits and then going all nice and sweet and private. They're not ready to not talk about fighting when the other person just stares at them like a bully who's nonverbal. Stimulus starts to be the limits of the chemicals, the hormones, the emotions, and takes away all of the extra energy from the brain and mind to help a person's body go have a conversation about sharing some food, to go and take a hospital on the ocean to help with coronavirus on an island. There's like this big emphasis on history, like the history shows we're in a simulation machine. We're living in a video game, and most likely the person describing what I'm saying now to use a few easy examples are probably Ted Kaczynski, the Singularity Distinguished Professor, engineer, mathematician, Ray Kurzweil, and a number of other people possibly. People are being forced, like I am now, cooking, washing hands, and making a video, too close to their limits, with their brain and body. And their mind eventually has to blink, and then they might get confused like me once in a while. So stimulus doesn't decide what people have to do after they have a conversation about how to help one another in their countries, for example. The stimulus sets the limits for the important work to help one another. And people aren't allowed to intimidate visually or unnecessarily threaten face to face. And then, like psychological cognition, starting out slow with trying to understand why the stimulus was chosen, why a person or any number of identifying parts to what gets decided has to do with the brain and the body, assisted with the mind or brain and body, or however a person's psychology ends up. The point is, a lot like now in a place like Seattle, Washington, where everybody wants everybody to do the right choice and give consequences for failure and control each other's behavior and decisions. Sometimes verbally, sometimes with their bodies and behavior and gestures, sometimes financially. And the sanctity of the whole system and processes has to do with each part of the world's different governance. Not as it is now, but as it's continuing to get better to help the people that the system serves. In other words, people are finally given the same freedom the person who learns about the stimulus gets from the freedom and the awesomeness, not having to worry about behavior, not having to worry about thinking or thoughts, and simply solving what's being done. In other words, accomplishing a goal with a purpose and passion and vitality to be successful. The end.